Rumbee's podcast. Rumbee's podcast. This is Rumbee's podcast. What? Rumbee's podcast. Rumbee's podcast. Oh yeah. I tell you that little one time was the time. You got it already.
Hello, welcome to Room B. I'm your host, Rumbii. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today. This podcast is a diary style podcast. I talk about my experiences navigating life, specifically adulthood, because I think it's important to talk about it as adulthood. It's something that we don't really get a blueprint for. And I'm not saying there's a blueprint for every single stage in your life, but I feel like before adulthood, we have some form of guidance. We have parents, we have guardians, caregivers, communities who guide us through life. And then when we reach adulthood, we're just suddenly thrust into the world and everyone expects us to just know how to deal with it, how to navigate it. And I'm gonna be real with you. I struggle every single day. Being an adult is hard. It's scary. It's isolating. And the reality is everyone is just making it up as they go along. And so by making this podcast, I hope that someone out there can relate to what I go through, because I know there's definitely someone out there who feels the way that I do about navigating adulthood. The world is so difficult, so unfair, and I'm speaking from the perspective of a Black woman. I can definitely tell you that there is not a lot of fairness out there, but I hope that you and I connecting means that at least we're able to get through those tough moments and work things out. I started this podcast as an outlet. It was supposed to be something that I used to just work through my thoughts, work through the challenges that I'm going through. And initially it was focused on my mental health. By doing that exploration of what my mental health is like, what I go through, my experiences, I found that that was just one aspect of who I am. I have so much more to myself. It wasn't just my mental health that was affecting me. It was my physical health and my relationships with the people around me, my perception of myself, how others perceive me, and the many roles that I play in life. And so now I feel like this podcast is more just an exploration of who I am. And I have no idea where this is going to take me, but I'm very, very excited and committed to doing the work that needs to be done for me to feel confident in myself, to be very sure of who I am. One of the things that I really pride myself in doing is my ability to introspect. I'm also just someone who's very inquisitive. I want to understand why. Like I remember as a kid, I used to take apart things. And that's just because I was curious. I wanted to know why that thing stopped working. And so when I found that my brain has its quirks, I wanted to understand why. And so it was very easy for me to start doing the introspection. And I'd also like to admit that I do my very best, to be honest, because lying and being dishonest really stresses me out. As I've mentioned before, I experience anxiety, and my anxiety can stem from many, many things. And one of them is having to maintain a lie. And I spoke about this in one of my earlier episodes where I described lying about my background and who I am, and I was making up this idea of who I thought I was. Now I know is because I had a lot of self-hate. I didn't like who I was at the time, and I was very young and very impressionable. So to me, what was cool is what I tried to emulate, even though it wasn't really who I truly was. So I could not live with myself if I didn't put all the work I need to do into understanding myself. Because at the end of the day, I am the person who is in this husk, in this body. I have to live with myself Every decision and choice I make is going to create consequences that I have to live up to. And so I could not live with myself knowing that I am dishonest or lying or pretending to others or to myself. If you can't be honest with yourself, then what's the point? What's the point of this life thing if you're not standing on business, if you're not a person of your word? So through all that, I've over the years evolved the ability to reflect. And I think one of the biggest anxieties I used to have was, at the end of the day, thinking way too long and hard about what you said, what you did that day. And it used to be debilitating to the point where it just made sense to stop lying. As children, we often lie because it's convenient, and we know that if we say a lie, it will get us out of a situation, or it will make you appear more favorable in another situation. So I understand why I did it, but I'm no longer excited about that. And now, I'm not going to say that I don't lie. That's not true. But I feel like my lies are a lot more tame now. I lie to strangers, because I don't know you. And why are you asking me so many questions? Especially here in Canada. Oh my gosh, Canadians are just so chatty. And as someone who grew up in England, speaking to strangers is not part of our culture. And I think a lot of British people are described that way, as being very closed off. We don't speak to our neighbors. We don't speak to strangers on the street. Other people do. Some places, I'm not gonna speak for the whole of England, for the whole of Britain, but where I was raised, where I grew up, there's a lot of hostility, specifically in London. People are very focused on what they want, tunnel vision, don't care who's next to me. I'm just doing my own thing. And so something I've been struggling with lately is just riding the elevator in my building. There'll be someone in the elevator with me and they just start talking to me. How are you doing? Where are you coming from? Why do you have so many bags? I find it, to me, it makes me put my guard up, because I'm why are you asking me so many questions? What do you need to know? Who are you? Who are you working for? And so that's when I lie. I make up stories, because I also find it just so interesting. I could be anyone. I could be anyone. And I don't think there are many consequences to those little lies. I guess they're called white lies, right? Am I right in saying that? Who knows? With all that said, I haven't been writing. I couldn't quite put my finger on why it is I haven't been writing. I knew that it had become a problem when my husband asked me if I was writing, because he could tell that I wasn't. He knows that that's one of my processes, where if things are bothering me or if I'm going through something, I write it out, and it helps me just get those constant thoughts out of my mind, put them on paper, and you're able to sift through it. You're able to sift through the words and try to find meaning to them. And so he asked me a couple of weeks ago, he's like, have you been writing? No. He's like, why not? And you know what? I have no answer for that. I really do not have an answer for that. So I want to read you a page from my diary. It's the most recent page that I wrote in. I don't keep one diary, by the way. I have many diaries because I don't like to write things in chronological order. So whenever I feel like writing, I just grab whatever notepad I feel good about in that moment, and then I write. And in a way, it's a great representation of my mind, because I feel like that's how my thoughts are. My thoughts are very sporadic and very random, and there's no categorization of thoughts at all. This specific entry was from February 10th. It's just one page long. It's the first bit of writing that I've done in probably 2 months. So this is raw, straight off the page. It is a journal style podcast after all, so here we are reading my diary. I've not been writing lately. I know I should, and I've been saying I should, but for some reason I haven't. The purpose of writing for me is to let out all the thoughts that constantly swirl in my mind. I can't help but feel as though part of me just doesn't want to deal with those thoughts. Yet here I am. The last thing I wrote was an incomplete sentence. I wrote 2.5 pages and suddenly my body decided that that's it and that's all. Even my husband has been encouraging me to write because he also knows how helpful it is for me. I wish I knew what it was I am avoiding. I just hope this writing session allows me to work through that. And that's it. In a way, that experience was actually helpful because it got me thinking about one of my old podcast episodes. I think it's called Stress is a Choice. And I talked about how the most important things to focus on are our perception and our communication when it comes to stress. And one of the points I made is that regarding perception, you have to try and alter your perception of the stressful trigger. I feel like I hadn't realized that by bringing back this podcast, I am creating a level of vulnerability that I didn't have for the last 2 years. I underestimated just how stressful it is to talk about things that are in your diary. Because not everybody does that, right? Most people write in their diary and that's it. And yet here I am sharing the things that I think about. I definitely underestimated the fact that doing this again and doing it so publicly, I might not have the most amount of listeners, but the fact that I am putting myself out there is stressful. And I think that might be part of the problem. I was excited about creating. I was excited about hosting. I was excited about this being a stepping stone towards my dream. I completely forgot about the day-to-day effort, the day-to-day vulnerability, and opening up about things that I probably wouldn't tell people who know me in life, but now they have access to that part of me. So it's like, I know that I am really nervous about that. But at the same time, there's an excitement attached to it because it's like the people around me get to know me a little bit better. And also, part of me completely forgets the fact that people who care about you support you. So it's not even about the context of what I'm discussing. I need to think about this person just wants to support me. They want to see me succeed. All of this to say, it's a choice, right? Because I'm choosing to focus on the negative and choosing to not take those thoughts out my mind and put them down on paper. I'm choosing to hold on to them and letting them create doubt in myself, which is, again, something I spoke about before, where I started doubting myself. I started doubting, like, is this really something I should be doing? It's coming back again. Why is it back? Why do I always entertain the negatives when it pertains to things that mean the most to me? Like, I should be excited about this. So I guess this is, I'm working through this like mental block with you guys right now, because putting yourself out there is very scary. I think what I just want is to be content with knowing that this is now part of who I am at this point in my life. Part of me is expressing my feelings, and hopefully that can help me become someone who is a lot more open with the people around me. And not only that, it helps me understand the type of person I am. Stress is a choice. It really, really is a choice. I finally got to see my dietitian. I think I mentioned that a couple episodes ago, that my doctor suggested that I see a dietitian. And speaking to her, I learned that I eat too much cheese. I didn't know this. Apparently, you're only supposed to have 2 helpings of cheese a week. That's the healthy amount, especially for someone whose cholesterol has gone up. Yeah, that was surprising, and I am really struggling because I love cheese. I love cheese. And it's so crazy because I didn't even eat that much cheese before I met my husband. Does anyone else like experience that? Like prior to meeting your long-term partner, there are certain habits that you never had. And then them being part of your life, you just start taking on some of their habits. I don't understand how that's happened. Well, I do know, because I also am the type of person that if my husband is eating a bowl of popcorn, I also want a bowl of popcorn. If he's having a sandwich, I also want a sandwich. Why do you get 2 sandwiches and I get 1? I want 2 sandwiches too. No wonder I gained so much weight. I am competing. I'm eating the same amount as a 6 foot tall man. Like, anyway, this year is the year of better physical health. I know I might sound like a broken record where I constantly talk about my physical health, but I have to. I have to. I have no other choice but to. Going back to thinking about my 90-year-old self, if I want to be the 90-year-old Rumbii that I have in mind, I need to constantly talk about my physical health, because if I don't do that, if I don't prioritize my physical health, then I will continue doing what I've been doing for the last decade, which has not been good, because it's led me to having an increase in cholesterol. And if I go another decade doing this, I am going to have a lot of health issues. And as a Black woman, as a Black person in general, we have a higher mortality rate anyway. So I need to prioritize my physical health if I want to make it to 90. Because when you do have Black people who look after themselves and take care of their health, we live forever. We really do. Like, there is so many centenarians. What are they called? People who reach 100 years old. There are so many Black people who reach that age. And usually when they reach that age, it's because they've been healthy. They've never smoked a single thing. They've never neglected their physical health. They have prioritized the quality of the food they put in their bodies. So it's like, I want to be one of those people. I want to. Because again, there's a competitive nature within me of like, well, if you can do it, I want to do it too. So it's like, I want to reach 100. I want to be that old person that can like tell all the little children that, hey, this is what it looks like when you prioritize your health and you prioritize yourself. Because at the end of the day, what matters to me is having been a good person on the planet, and also having made sure that I lived my best life. You know, I made the most of the time I have on this planet. With that said, I hope that you stay awesome, be kind, and spread positivity.
Rumbee's podcast. Rumbee's podcast. Yeah. Rumbee's podcast. What? Rumbee's podcast. Rumbee's podcast. This is Rumbee's podcast. What? Rumbee's podcast. Yeah. Rumbee's podcast. Oh yeah. I tell you that other one time was the time. You got it already.